Welcome to Lift Up Nations. I'm Robb Leech, and today's episode is the testimony of Dr. Murina Zahabi. How are you today?
Thank you so much for having me, Mr. Robb.
You're
Thank you. I'm good.
yes, good. So tell me a little bit about yourself, who you are, where you're from, and then we'll get into your story about your life.
So I am calling you from greetings from Chicagoland. That's where I am right now. And so thank you so much. But I am actually from Kenya, born and raised in Nairobi, and moved after a while to Tanzania. So I lived in both countries, held both passports, and now I am a US citizen.
Nice. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So let's start with your story. Start from when you were a child, what happened all the way until now. Um, I'm gonna let you dialogue it to tell your story because somebody in the future can watch this and actually see, people can come from a certain area and become something. As you see, you're a doctor, so people can see where you go and where you came from. So,
Thank you. So I have an doctorate degree from the University of Haiti, and they conferred this on me 2 years ago, and they said that you're doing a lot of work, and I had to do my dissertation in a funny sort of way. I had to go to um, Myrtle Beach to do my dissertation there, but education has been one thing that has really enhanced my life. I was born, like I said, in Nairobi, Kenya, and grew up there. We were a modest family, not rich, not poor, but my mom had to figure out how we were going to make ends meet. My father was a businessman. He had worked for a fellow family member. I say fellow because they were fellows and then they were not. And then all of a sudden, one bright morning, they just laid my father off. He had established the office in Nairobi, and they just one day, fine day, they just let him go. And he came home very angry, very tired, thinking, "What am I going to do now? I used to work for these people." But then I think my mother and other people helped him to figure out that you know enough to start your own business, and he did. And I had seen them struggle because we didn't have enough money coming in. Commissions that he'd worked on, he was an indenting officer, that he said, and he used to be the middle person working for manufacturers in China, and then get all the raw materials or products for the people in Kenya, in Nairobi. And so it was a lucrative business, but and I know that starting out a business is really hard.
yes.
And that's what happened. And so my mom used to be a seamstress, and she used to also be a caterer. So she worked in both aspects, and she had acute asthma. My life changed when she passed away when I was 12. And 8 months later, my father married this woman who had an agenda. Now, like Cinderella had a stepmom, my stepmom was very calm, collected, but very, very calculated, because she was able to manipulate my dad into things. She married me off at 15, and I say me off because I had no say in that. And so I was married at 15 to somebody who was at least 13 years older than me. So I went from one country to another, and at that time Kenya was has always been a flourishing country, and it had supermarkets and stuff. And then I went from a democratic country to a communist country where things were in scarcity. You couldn't find things on the store. If you went to a store, it was empty, and you had to stand in line for bread and flour and sugar if you needed to. So that changed perspective in my life, because then you started living not in abundance but in scarcity. And there I had 4 kids. I had 3 daughters. I was told on the very first day of marriage that I was to produce a son. My husband had an older brother who had 3 daughters, And the younger brother decided he wasn't going to get married, so he wasn't going to have kids. But my job was to produce a son because my older brother in law's wife could not have any more kids.
Mhm.
So I became not the breadwinner, but the son earner, if you will.
Yep.
And after three daughters, I had a son. And so by the age of 24, I was a mother of four kids and with no help. I had no help at all. I didn't have the support of a family. I didn't have support of my husband because I kept producing girls. And then when the son came, things just changed. Now, it didn't change for the better for me, but everybody was happy there was a son. And the name of the family would be carried down.
Mhm.
um, Tried a lot of things, worked in my husband's business, who became an entrepreneur there, started making a name for myself in the community. I took that business from my husband was bona fide watch repairer. That's what his job was. That was something that he was very good at, but that's all he did. He didn't take care of the other aspect of the business. So I started flooding in the market with a lot of goods and taking this store to a level where it was a recognized store in the community. At the age of 28, I filled out a form to, the DV1 program, which was established by President Clinton. And this was an ad in the newspaper that you had to follow the protocol of filling out this form. And there's no form. You had to use a blank piece of paper typed up the way they ask you to, and just fill out all of the necessary documentation and mail it in. And I filled out for my husband and myself. And I had a typewriter, so I also filled it out for my school administrator and her family. So 28 applications were filled out by me one night. And I
Wow.
stayed up till about 3 o'clock because I wasn't very good at typing. And of course, with typing that you can't have a delete button or a back button. so, so you had to start again if you made a mistake. And out of all those 28 applications, excuse me, I had one, my name came out. 7 months later, they sent me a letter saying that I had been chosen. It was a lottery system, and I won that lottery to come to the United States. But it was just the first preliminary step, and that meant that I had to go through a series of other aspects of finding a sponsor in the United States and somebody, just the different aspects of coming to United States. And people told me that nobody's going to sponsor you because there's six of you. Nobody wants that many people. But an angel out of the woodworks showed up, and they sent me the necessary paperwork. We filed it, and it was almost, I want to say, 22 months later that I got an interview with the American embassy. And we had to go through extensive medical assessments, my husband and I, and we came back on the day with everything. We had to pay a large sum of money just to have the interview. And on that day, it was a Thursday. I remember going up with penny, a coin in my hand, just wishing for luck. I walked up there, and I thought it was an interview where we were going to sit there at across the table and have a conversation with the governor, the governor, or not the governor, but the person who was,
Ambassador.
yeah, ambassador. Sorry, thank you. And so he was, but it was not a stand up or sit down interview. It was just like going to a post office and buying stamps, just like that. You just go to the window, and there was quite a few families there, and he rejected everybody on that day.
Mm.
He just did. And when it came to my turn, we sat there for almost 3.5 hours. And the coin in my hand was actually wet because I was so worried about this. if you don't pass the interview, you've just spent your money, and that's the last step, and you don't even think about going. And I walked up there, and he said, "So what are you going to do in America?" And I said, "I'm going to be a teacher." And he said, "Okay." And he asked my husband, "You know you're going to America because of her, right?" And he said, "Yeah." And he said, "So what are you going to do?" And he said, my husband said, "I'm a watch repairer by profession, and that's what I'm going to do, repair watches." And he goes, "In America, everybody throws away their watches. Nobody repairs them." And my husband said, "There's somebody who wants their watch repaired." And the guy smiled and he said, "Well, first of all, tell me how you found a sponsor." And I said, "I don't, how do you know this man who sponsored you?" And I said, "I don't." And he said, "He just sponsored you just like that?" And I said, "Yeah." We called them, we told them that what was the problem, and he said he was going to sponsor us. "Have you ever met this person before?" I said, "No." And he goes, "Then if God wants you to go, who am I to reject?" And he put a stamp approved on there, and I just looked at him and I said, and at that time I breathed, and he goes, "You were holding your breath all this time." And I said, "Well, you rejected all those people over there." Jesus Christ. And then he goes, "No, I'm not that mean. I just go to America, go have fun." And that was
Wow.
it, right? So, I mean, we had prayed, and we had everybody in the family praying because I needed to get out of it. And so we came to America almost about 9 years ago. We had to sell everything because we had to make a decision if we were going to stay half there or half here. And like I said, we were we were not that rich. We didn't have surplus amounts of money, and so we had to make a decision if who's going to stay behind, or do we go back like other people come back and go back, every 2 years, get a stamp and go. How do they want to do this? And one thing I said is, if I'm going, I'm not coming back.
Mhm.
Now, I love my countries. Those countries, the Kenya and Tanzania, have been homes to me. I have no problems. But there was also other things. It was just too expensive. And there was, because I had three daughters, there was a lot of, my daughters would have been married at the age of 16 if I were there. And education was not at the greatest. So I had to sit down and consider. And one thing that happened to me was I was getting a scholarship to go to Cambridge University in UK.
Mhm.
But because I got married, I didn't get that chance anymore because I was 15.
Yeah.
So the thing was that I going to do this to my kids as well? Should I take this chance and say, I'm just going to take this chance and go and help my kids do this? So I sat there, had a lot of conversations with my creator, and I said, please give me a sign as to what I should do. Well, we all know that there's a sign that comes through, but we never see the way we want to see it.
Mhm.
And I said, you know what? If I do this, then it's not for me. I'm not going there for me, but I'm going to do this for my kids. And I promised my kids years ago, before even this decision came about, that I was going to live for them. And I said, I'm going to do this for them so that they can get a chance. And I did. And have I regretted it? Not even once. Not even once. It's been 30 years since I've been in the United States, and I'm very proud to be an American. This country has changed the trajectory of my life. I've been able to get uh, advanced education, got a master's degree, worked hard on that. I'm now a coach where I teach people to give their business a voice and figure out where other people's gifts are. I have an uncanny ability to look at them and see what gifts do you have, because sometimes we have the things we have and we don't even see it. We don't value what we have. So it takes an outsider to look at you, to understand you, to see what you have, and then how you can take that, define them, and then take it to the next level. So that's what I do. Short,
So
that's short.
yeah. So how long you been doing that? Because it says the niche navigator. So,
This about 8 years. Going to be
okay.
in my ninth next year. Yes.
So give us a little bit about what that is and how that works for people.
So what gifts do you have, right? Uh, Many of us have been given gifts. We come with gifts, but we don't see it. We don't see the value. And 99, I've seen this many often, even in real life, that we see other people's stuff and we want theirs, but we don't see what we have. So take inventory of what do you have. And many people will start a business and they'll say, you know what, I want to start a business, but I don't know what to do. But have you taken inventory of yourself? That's one thing. So
Mhm.
I believe that to start a business, you have three things. There are three giant steps, of course, with little steps in the middle. But the three steps are: one is your ideal client, one is your niche, which is your foundation. Once you have your foundation, you go to the next step and you have to find your ideal client. And then you find your ideal client, and how do you then market to them? So there's three aspects to them. But you have to figure out the first one, what's your niche is. That's your foundation. I saw this documentary they were talking about Chicago, and I have channels that I just,
Mhm.
surf. And there was this one black and white documentary where they were talking about how the Sears Tower, they don't call it Sears Tower anymore, but Sears Tower was built. And what the vision was, they wanted to make this the highest building in the world. It was at one point until Burj Khalifa in Dubai took
Mhm.
over.
Yeah.
But, but they had to build the foundation they built was half the size of the building. So if the building was 22 feet, they had to go down 11 feet. Now, I'm not giving you the right exactly, but the foundation had to be good. Now, they
Yes.
built this building right in the heart of the city, right across where the wind of the Lake Michigan is coming. And Lake Michigan is one of the largest lakes in the United States. So the wind factor in Chicago, being the windy city, they had to keep that in consideration as well. So they had to sit down and think about how tall this building is going to be. One, they had to be the tallest building at one point in the world. And then also that it wouldn't sway or hurt people in the building or around it. So a lot of thought process went into that. And that's exactly how niches are. You have to sit down and think about your niche and figure out what is it that you want to help people with, because you already want to solve a problem. Have you thought about the problem? And then what tools do you have to solve it? So that's the niche
Okay.
factor.
That's cool. So, is there anything that you would share with somebody that would be watching this that has happened in your life that you want, like a struggle or issue? Coming to America sounded like a struggle. So, is there anything you want to leave to the people that watch this or to your family that may watch this in the future?
Life for me, if you, everywhere I've turned, it has been a struggle. I've had to fight my way around to figure out who I am, one, and most people have a smooth sailing in life. I don't. I really don't. And I think God puts, and somebody told me a long time ago that God doesn't give you what you can't handle. And
Mhm.
it's like, yeah, but God, find somebody else. Please. I know you have humor in your life,
Yeah.
but go ahead this thing. And then sometimes it feels like Zeus is, if we were thinking of the ancient gods, Zeus is sitting there with all his lightning rods and just, Manira, you're the target. You're the target practice. And sometimes I tell him, right, hello Zeus, find somebody else to play with.
Yes.
So Greek mythology, but in real life, well, I've had struggles. I lost my husband in 2020, just before COVID, so that was the latest one. And then yesterday, my daughter said goodbye to me because she's been here for 5 years. She's been a pillar, and don't get me wrong, my son is here too in Chicagoland. He's 20 minutes away from me, but
Mhm.
still, I had a support system with my daughter and my son and their families, but now she's leaving for a job to California. So it's like,
Mm,
okay, so now you say that's another struggle. It's like to say bye, because if my son isn't around, then I go to my daughter, right? And if my daughter isn't around, then I go to the son. But now I only have my son, which is not bad also because he's just 20 minutes away. But the thing is that you want your family. As a mother, I want everybody close to me. Now, two
yes.
daughters have already been far away from me, but now this one is going away too. So that's another struggle. It's like, how do you overcome that? And
Mhm,
he was like, don't cry. And I'm like, this is a support system I had,
mhm,
but now you're not there. So I wish her the best, but that's another thing. So struggle is part of life.
mhm.
Adversity is part of life. But how do you look at it? How do you look at each part of struggle and say, there is a way to overcome this? Even coming to America, it's not always uh, fine and good. When you come to America, things were different. I had to figure out schools, I had to figure out health, I have to figure out a lot of things that people don't have to think about. Then also in 5 years, you'd have to take the American citizenship test, with most of the people in America who are born here don't have to take, right? So,
Yeah,
I mean, every path, every step that you take in life is also a struggle. But how do you overcome it? And that is the part of, I think, where faith comes in, your belief system comes in, your family system support comes in, and that's where you defines you to come out of all of this. Tony Robbins tells us, you have to walk on coals, so then you become refined and defined on the other side. But what if you're doing that every single day of your life, and you have to figure out how to take your life and shine through all of this adversity in your life? And so for those of you listening, you want to take this lesson, and don't think of your struggles as, oh my god, why am I why Zeus picking on me with his lightning rods? But no, think of it as, okay, you're giving me this. Always pray with the fact that, okay, you've given me this task and it's very hard, but now give me the strength to take the next step to overcome this. And that's,
yeah,
if you look at it this way, I think things become a little easier.
great. So, thank you for your story and your testimony of your life. Um, Sorry that your husband passed a few years ago and your kids are leaving, but this too will strengthen your faith in who you are. And they're not gone; they're just moved to a different area. So it's not like uh, they moved where you couldn't reach them. So that's a blessing in itself. Uh, but I'm going to pray over us in the podcast. So, and then I have a few announcements, and then we will be wrap this up. So, uh, dear Lord, thank you for this podcast. Thank you for Manira's testimony. Thank you for all that she said to reach the people that actually watch this podcast. Thank you for uh, her strength and her faith in life to actually come to America and change uh, and teach and change the children in this country to um, be better and see that they do have a purpose in this world. Um, that's golden in itself. I just pray over everybody in her family. I pray everybody that actually moved away and that everybody's safe. I pray that everybody that watches this will actually be uh, a little bit better for watching this podcast and watching the testimony today. I do believe that in the end, we all have one purpose and we're all here for one reason. So, in that being said, thank you and God bless.
Thank you.
So that brings me to my announcements. If you'd like to come on my show or tell a testimony, you can reach out to me at 302 313 6190, or you can email me at liftupnations@gmail.com. Also, I do live baptisms in Lewis Beach. It's a little cold right now, but we will push that until spring. So if anybody wants to, you can get on the list for spring. Also, if you want to come on and just talk about general scripture or Bible, or anybody wants to talk about anything that's going on in the world, just reach out to me at 302-313-6190 or email me at liftupnations@gmail.com. And that being said, thank you, Dr. Maria, and I appreciate you coming on. I hope I speak to you in the future, and thank you, and God bless.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yep. Have a blessed day.